All over the web, you hear people talking about the ills of the modern woman, how the women of today are nothing like the woman of yesteryear. They're unclassy, combative, uncooperative, and have no respect for men. Feminism has taken the zeitgeist by storm, and men must bow down to the divine feminine energy. I've mentioned the story of Adam and Eve and how Eve went left when tempted by the serpent. She gave in to the temptation of power and independence when offered to have great knowledge and be on the level of a god. She thought God was holding her back from her potential and defied his orders. She saw it as a form of oppression. This sounds very similar to the feminism of today. Women entitled to power and rulership over society and are willing to destroy everything to get it. This behavior from women isn't anything new. Another book of the Bible tells us a woman will despise a man if she has to take care of him. There's also a story on how three people were to win the favor of a king by convincing the king who was the wisest. They wrote on what thing is the most influential between wine, the king, and women. One of the things mentioned to prove the woman is the strongest was how a concubine of the king would sit on the king's throne, take the crown off the king's head, and slap him across the face. The king would do nothing but sit there with a stare, and if the concubine was displeased with the king, he would be desperate to win back her approval. These are just a couple of examples of literature in antiquity noting the behavior of women. This all to say, women haven't changed at all. They are what they've always been. What has changed is men. Men today are weak, unaccomplished, and unfit to lead anything or anyone. I've mentioned before how women must be kept in line. They must have someone in authority over them, or they will break bad. Since men of today are incapable of assuming authority, women have run wild. The modern man has failed in his duty to take his proper place as a leader, and in most cases doesn't believe he needs to be a leader, all while believing a woman must submit to him. What women are doing today is actually very old, but is more intense than any time in history because of what men have not done throughout history, which is to shy away from leadership as a whole. Men who don't build themselves into leaders have been reduced to begging and hoping when it comes to relationships with women. They'll buy flowers and gifts and give them song and special treatment in hopes these sentiments will convince a woman to adore them. Men believe they are entitled to a woman's allegiance because of all the nice things he has done for her. As I've mentioned before, a woman will only submit to power. These sentiments from men are not a display of power. They are a form of submission. A man submitting to a woman is a death sentence for the relationship. Her response to this will either be to drag you or to leave you. Some men believe women need to acquiesce to them just because. A Y chromosome is the only requirement for female cooperation. It is natural for a woman to submit to a man, but the key word here is man, not male. Males are born. Men are built. There's no such thing as a modern woman, when what we're calling modern is no different from what women have always been throughout human history. What is an unprecedented social phenomenon is men on a grand scale cowering from the position of leading. The only thing a woman will and always has responded properly to is power. The modern man has none.